My name's Robyn, and today, as Enza Construction celebrates 25 years in the business, we're here to interview Rowan and Clinton Crowie. Rowan is the executive chairperson of Enza Construction and the CEO of Crowie Holdings. Clinton is the CEO of Enza Construction. Hi, Rowan and Clinton. Thank you so much for being here. Rowan, can you take us back to 2000? What inspired you to start this business with your brother Clinton?
Yeah, well, I guess the initial inspiration was really around how we could develop a business between us that built on our experience, our skill sets. We both come from a building background and a construction environment background. So putting that together and finding something that worked for the two of us, worked on our strengths and weaknesses, I think was really what it was about. And initially, I guess that was about setting up a project management consulting business back in 2000. So yeah, I don't think at that stage we were thinking too far ahead in terms of where this was going to, but it was more around how we could get something started.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you were doing before you founded the business?
Well, I was working for a project management business here in Johannesburg. It was an international business that had started out here, and doing construction project management. Rowan was at the Reserve Bank. And I guess we always had some sort of plan on getting together. We grew up in the same room, so I guess a lot of it was intuitive without really saying, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do. And Rowan probably woke up one day and said, he's leaving the Reserve Bank and we better be starting quite shortly. And I think that is pretty much how it started.
Can you tell us some pivotal moments in the early developments of Crowie Holdings?
Yeah, so I guess in terms of the early days, it was really just about survival, and I guess coming to grips with the difficulty, the challenges of starting a small business, and there were many. As Clinton was saying, I mean, I'd been at the Reserve Bank and had developed certain networks, and it was really around how could we harness those networks and those relationships to acquire work and build a business. But very early on, I mean, we picked up a few major projects, and then went through a merger with our project management consulting business with a company called PM Africa, and that's where we formed Focus Project Management. So that was very early on, and I think that sort of leapfrogged our side of the business into a bigger business. And then coming out of that down the line a year or two later, really looking at what sort of innovative ways we could find to generate our own work rather than be, I guess, dependent on what the market had available. So yeah, we were doing sort of early stage turnkey type work for the PIC. They've got a property portfolio, and a lot of that had to be refurbished. We did a lot of that sort of work. So coming out of that, we really started to shift the business away from being what was purely a project management consulting business into a bit of a turnkey contractor. And coming out of that was, I guess, the establishment of Enza Construction. Initially just set up to do our own work, our own internal work. And over a period of time, I think we saw the opportunity to then broaden that to third-party work. So that's really sort of the early stage milestones, I would say.
Adding on to what Rowan said, I think what we always did really well from even before we started the business was creating that network. And when Rowan says that working at the Reserve Bank, consultants and the like were looking to the Reserve Bank for getting work, but we've always created networks, relationships, and I think that was, for me, was one of the cornerstones of where we are today, because I think it's the ethos and the culture that we continue, creating strong relationships, people we can trust, people that could trust us. Because I mean, at the time we were both in our 20s, so starting a business at that age was daunting, but we always had people and companies around us that believed in us and trusted in us, and I think that was quite important, really, in the early stages, and it's something that we follow through.
Rowan speaks of some early challenges. Can you give us some background on what those challenges were?
I think the challenges was always being two young individuals was the credibility and getting access to work, getting the right access to work. We started off with some simple basic projects that paid the bills, paid the cell phone bills, paid for the petrol. But in the beginning it was difficult. But I think the resilience that we've built, that we've always had each other to lean on, and we always had a similar sort of vision. We were always on the same road, and being together helped us get through challenges which, I mean, you don't even realize the challenges that you went through because you go through them together. When people are together and with the same sort of vision and same outcomes and people to lean on, you get through these challenges. But yeah, it was difficult getting work, getting paid on time and stuff was always a challenge.
Yeah, I think just to add on to what Clinton's saying, I think in the early days, the one thing that we did recognize and I think that really worked for us was we understood the importance of collaborations, and we collaborated with a number of companies in those early days in terms of getting access to bigger projects. Without the track record and experience, we recognized the importance of collaborating with established companies. And I mean, one of the early ones was SIP, project managers, and they had access to clients. I mean, they were building casinos and things like that at the time. And by collaborating with them, we then, I guess, got access to those projects initially as junior partners and built strong relationships. And I guess that access and exposure really helped us.
Enza has delivered some really transformative infrastructure across South Africa. Looking back on the 25 years, what are some of the landmark projects that stand out to you personally?
I guess early in the days with when we were doing the project management of MTN Innovation Centre and Fairlands West Bank projects, those were big iconic projects in Gauteng in South Africa. And the fact that we were significant partners in the project management of it certainly gave us access to better and better work going on from that. And then there were a number of projects after that. But for me, that was the start, and people stood up and recognized the fact that, hey, these two young guys were on significant projects.
I would say from my side, it was really around, I guess, the development of the Bridge City Shopping Centre. I mean, it was pretty early on. I think we bought the land from the joint venture in 2006. There was a joint venture between Tongaat Hewletts and the city, and we bought a piece of land 2006, 2007, and developed a 50,000 square meter regional shopping centre with the support from RMB Bank. Did the construction with Grinica LTA. So it was sort of an end-to-end development. We put the whole scheme together, developed it, and then on-sold it to the PIC. So I think that also, again, did help in terms of establishing ourselves as real players in the market.
And that was pretty significant. I mean, it was a massive project that we put together as a development on our own. We put the whole team together, we designed it, and then we actually went and built a very, very big shopping centre in the middle of Komashu. And I think that project got us recognized in the fact that we weren't just consultants or project managers, we developers, we contractors, and we had the whole suite. And the fact that we could put it together was a huge milestone.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, the fact that it was a full intermodal facility. I mean, we developed a Prasa rail station below the shopping centre, subterranean rail station. There's an intermodal bus and taxi facility behind it. And then sort of moving ahead a couple of years, we then secured the opportunity to build a 500-bed state hospital next to it, which was the Dr. Pixley Hospital, which we did with Grinica LTA initially. We eventually bought them out of the joint venture and completed it ourselves. But I mean, if you look at it, we started at Bridge City in 2006 and we finished the hospital in 2023. So that's sort of 17 years of just Bridge City as part of our history. So you go there now and you see the state-of-the-art hospital, you see the shopping centre, and you can stand back and see a big part of the 25 years of our history. Yeah.
The group is known for progressive thinking and a high-performance culture. How do you foster innovation across such a diverse organization?
Well, I guess from our point of view, because when we were starting out, or even when we were fairly well established, there were always larger construction companies, there were always larger development companies, and we had to find something that would set us apart. So we were always thinking differently, always thinking innovatively. How could we bring technology in? And it just became the cornerstone of the way we thought, because you've always got to do something different, because any developer could go to any contracts out there, and there were large developers who had access to cash, access to land. So I think by default, we've always had to think differently to set aside ourselves from the rest.
As a 100% Black-owned and controlled group, what role do you think Crowie Holdings plays in South Africa's transformation and empowerment landscape?
Well, I think the transformation question is quite an interesting one, because I mean we've seen the sector develop over the last 25 years from 2000 to now. And a lot of people would say that enough hasn't been done, and I would tend to agree with that in terms of transforming or the sector transforming. But I think in terms of the role that we've played, I mean, I think looking at the projects that we have developed, a lot of social infrastructure in previously disadvantaged areas, a lot of critical hard infrastructure as well. So everything from hospitals, various hospitals, clinics, schools, educational facilities, student accommodation, and the like. I think on the one hand, we recognise that we've been a big part of developing critical infrastructure in the country, but from a transformation point of view, I think we always recognise the need to embrace those communities that we worked in. It became a cornerstone of how we operated. It was really about understanding those communities, understanding what they could bring to the party, embracing that and making them part of the development. So I think on the ground, I think we've really embraced that approach. Within the business, I think if you look at the business itself, from a gender point of view, from a diversity point of view, I think we've made great strides. I think at the same time recognizing the challenges in the industry and in the country in terms of availability of skills and the like. So we've always been very clear around the fact that we need to balance it to a point where we were able to deliver on projects, and we would have the right resources to be able to deliver on projects. But at the same time, I think pushing the transformation agenda has always been a key part of how we did things.
I mean, the construction industry in South Africa was typically a white male-dominated industry, and I think over the years the transformation that you've seen in the business, from a black point of view, from a female point of view, and we've become a business that others can look up to. It's a business that people would like to work for, and I think the diversity. So we really aren't we're inclusive of all cultures, and I think that will be the Enza culture, which is grown. We've become a company that people can thrive in, where you get respected, where you get opportunities. Really has developed over the last 25 years, and it's something that I'm particularly proud of what we've been able to achieve. And when you look at Enza and you look at the rest of the industry, I think the rest of the industry also looks to Enza to think hey, if they could do it, I mean, surely we can. So it's become a bit of a beacon for the rest of the industry from a black point of view, and that's something I'm particularly proud of.
How would you describe the current landscape for infrastructure and property development in South Africa? What are the most prominent challenges and opportunities?
I think from an opportunity point of view, I mean, we're quite excited about where the sector's at. I think where we are placed in the sector puts us in a very strong position to I think harness some of those opportunities. So I think a big thing at the moment is the fact that the country's infrastructure program has gained some momentum. I think there's definitely some challenges around how that's funded. I think the state has limited resources, but I think within that, I think there's real opportunities for the private sector to get involved in not just implementing these projects, but actually funding and owning this infrastructure. So I think that for us represents a huge opportunity, because I think we're very well placed. I mean, if you look at the work that we've done over the years, PPPs, Stats SA is probably one of the larger PPPs that were implemented pretty early on, and we were involved as contractors, as investors on that project. So if you look at what's happening in the rail space, if you look at what's happening at the ports, the airports, I think there's going to be a huge opportunity for the private sector to play in that space, not just as contractors and as developers, but as investors. And I think that starts to change the shifts of the group and the business, and I think it moves us into a space where we haven't played previously, or have played on a limited basis.
What are your strategic priorities for Crowie Holdings over the next 5 to 10 years?
I think it's the next 5 to 10 years. I know we speak about where Enza is placed and what we're doing, but I mean, you have to remember that the work that we do are in communities. It's providing hospitals, it's providing education. So we see that the next 5 to 10 years is building on the capabilities that we have, but really transforming skills. We've got the graduate program within Enza, which we've had for the last 6 years, and that's been very successful. We've got the foreman program, and I think it's more about what can we provide for the country, what can we provide for communities, and I mean, we're doing the renewable energy. We're providing energy to the country in a sustainable way. So I think, the next 5 to 10 years, I think from a sustainability point of view, the industry has changed significantly over the last 5-10 years. And we're really ahead of the curve from a sustainability point of view in terms of the green building principles that we've been involved in, and I think that bodes well for the future.
I think just to add to that, I think the importance of what we call the Enza ecosystem is really critical, and that's not just about the business and our staff, but really about the broader ecosystem, our supplier base, our subcontractor base. We've spoken about the communities that we work in, and giving them access to opportunities, employment opportunities created while these projects are being developed, opportunities created after they're developed. So I think the importance of the ecosystem and building on the ecosystem and the strength of that ecosystem, and that's very often about a give and take. And I mean, our clients are part of that. I mean, we believe that we provide a quality service and solutions to our client base, and building on that and extending that client base, I think becomes hugely important. But I think it's definitely a situation where it starts to feed on each other, where we can support our clients, they can support us, we can support our supplier base, our subcontractor base, and that's really about, I think, the importance of that ecosystem.
What does this 25th anniversary mean to you personally?
Yeah, so I think it's a huge milestone for the business, and I think the importance of that for the business is really about the fact that we have survived.
A few times.
and we're still around. And I think a big part of that has been about the focus on building a sustainable business. I mean, I think we've foregone some short-term opportunities in light of creating something that's more sustainable and longer-term opportunities and longer-term relationships. So for the business, I think it's an important milestone. I think it's about partly reflecting on the past, and I think it's important to reflect on the past to understand where we are. But I think just as important for me is the next 25 years. I mean, I think 2050 is not too far away, and I'm looking forward to our 50-year celebration.
If I look back at, I mean, getting to 25 years, you start reflecting back on where we started, because people ask you the questions, staff ask you questions, and it gets you to think and reflect, and sometimes it makes you sit back. I mean, and the one thing that for me personally is the projects and that we've built, because they're out there. You can see children in schools, you can see people in hospitals, and for me personally, just driving past these projects is really personally gratifying. I mean, our father was a builder. I remember when we were young, and we would drive past the projects that he did, and he'd say, "Hey, I did that house, or I did that wall," and after a couple of years, while we driving, we'd say, "Yes, Dad, you built that. We know you built that," before he actually told us. And I find myself doing that with my kids as we driving past projects, and just reminding them. And it really is. It's amazing what has been built over the last 25 years. What we've built as a business, the people that are here, some of the people that aren't here, and to see all of this grow over 25 years, when you sit back, it's quite amazing. So yeah, something that we're both very proud of. As Rowan says, looking forward to the next 25 years. I'm not sure that in 2050 I'm going to be 77 years old. I might be hanging up my boots a year or two before then.
What would you say to the next generation of entrepreneurs in South Africa? It's an interesting one. I think that from our experience, it's definitely a case of saying, I think the environment is conducive to people getting into the sector, people building businesses. There's nothing like getting in and getting involved, and I guess understanding the challenges behind as well. It doesn't come without lots of hard work, and it takes a lot of time. I think if I look at some of the initiatives that government has put together around the Black industrialization program and things like that, I think there's very often not a full appreciation of some of the hurdles that are out there in terms of building a business, purely from a time point of view. I mean, it's taken us 25 years to get where we are. It doesn't happen overnight, and I think a certain amount of patience aligned with that hard work becomes quite important.
Yeah, I think entrepreneurship, it takes time, it takes collaboration, you've got to be true to your word. People got to respect and trust you, and that comes from doing what you say you're going to do. Things are going to be tough. If you are an entrepreneur, hopefully you've got a sibling that sticks it out with you as well. And yeah, but it's about creating people that stay with you for the long haul. And that comes down to, as I said, doing what you say you're going to do. So for people to trust you.
What message would you like to give to the stakeholders that have been a part of your journey?
I'd like to thank each and every one of our staff over the last 25 years. A lot of dedication, It's not just two people. It's teams of people. Our staff have been absolutely amazing. Some of them have left and have done well wherever they are. And that is the life of a business. But the people around us have been dedicated, they've been committed. And all we can say is that, yeah, thanks to them, thanks to the subcontractors, the suppliers that have stuck with us over many years. We go through some tough times, and it's about the communication with our subcontractors and suppliers that get to projects being done, it gets to hospitals being done, it gets to roads being done, and it really is, it's the network of people, the network of our staff that has created the last 25 years.
Yeah, I think to add to that, the support we received over the years, whether it be various government departments, whether it be private sector clients, whether it be some of the banks that supported us, we've got a lot to be thankful for in terms of the fact that we had people along the way, companies along the way that really did support us, that gave us a chance. I think we were fortunate in the sense that we were able to build on that, and that comes with hard work. But the various stakeholders over the years have really been a big part of where we at. As Clinton said, I mean, I think there's very often not a full understanding of what's behind us, and I think that's about the team. It's about the broader team, and as Clinton says, I think we've developed and we've built a culture that is very specifically an Enza culture, and it's how people rally together and get behind that. We've been through some very, very difficult times over the years, and if it wasn't for the fact that we have a team around us that gets together and rallies together in very, very difficult times, I don't think we'd be where we are. If you look at what happened during the COVID pandemic, I mean, the way the team got together in a very, very difficult situation, and developed very, very innovative solutions. And we built hospitals and various other things over that period of time. We completed hospitals over that period of time. So I think it's a big part of where the business is at, and it's really about that, as Clinton said earlier, that resilience. But it's the Enza culture, I think, that for me is probably the one thing that I'm very thankful we as a business we've been able to develop, because I think it's as important as anything else.
Yeah, I think the culture that has developed over the period, over this time, is something that people latch onto that, and as it wasn't the two of us that have built the culture. I mean, there's a culture of all the people along the way, and when people come in, I mean, I am often shocked to hear about new people coming in and they say what a great culture is, and it makes me stand up and think, because sometimes when you're in something for so long, you don't really get to feel it. But when you hear outsiders coming in, I mean, the other day we were at, Rowan and I went to the Kusile Ash Dam project, which is a large project we're doing for Eskom, and to hear the client talk about the culture within that project, how the contracts manager and the commercial guys deal with them on a day-to-day basis, talking to them about the challenges, and finding solutions. And when you hear that from a client, you haven't asked him any question and he just comes out and tells you, you realize what is actually going on throughout the business. And that definitely is something that we're proud of, and it's a culture that's being created by everyone in the business.
Thank you so much, Rowan and Clinton, for your time. And thank you for watching. Don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.